a couple of months ago, we had done a deep dive onto the plastic recycling industry in India, and especially something that is called the extended producer responsibility. So, if you guys want to listen to that deep dive on plastic recycling, we will link the episode in the show notes, or you can just go searching for it. It's called Plastic Recycling, the Indian Dream, right? So, look for that. That is a deep dive on the plastic recycling industry. But now let's talk about the ban on single-use plastic. First of all, Siddharth, what are single-use plastics? What are the kind of items maybe that have been banned? Do you have an idea?
Yeah. So I think this came back in 2017-18. I remember I was working with a lot of plastic manufacturers, and Prime Minister Modi had come on for a speech on August 15th and just said, hey, we're going to be phasing out single-use plastics. And I remember sitting in front of a lot of these plastic manufacturers who were up in arms about, what do you mean we're just going to ban the single-use plastic? And that's when I understood what he meant and what these companies were manufacturing. Basically, most of the plastic in India now is recycled, right? Or actually, a lot of the plastic in India
60 to 70% of the plastic in India is recycled.
Exactly. But the rest 30%, the straws, the bags, the polythene bags and stuff like that, is actually not recycled. So they land up in, landfills and basically pollute the soil, pollute water, pollute oceans, all of that. And globally, I think there's a move away from single-use plastic. India technically is slightly late if you think about it, compared to the Western countries. And things like straws, things like bags, things like wrappers, certain, chocolate wrappers and candy wrappers, ice cream sticks, earbuds, the sticks in the earbuds. These are all single use, and the government wants to get rid of them.
Yeah. And so this was basically implemented as per the regulations that are coming from the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change. These are part of the plastic waste management amendment rules that came up in 2022, right? It's part of that, and it's also part of what is called the plastic waste management rules from 2016. So both of these together, so extended producer responsibility, which we have spoken a lot about in the recycling episode, you can go listen to there. But basically what that says, which it's the short form is EPR, what that says is that anybody who's producing plastic has a responsibility of getting that plastic recycled. And on the other hand, the plastic waste management rules of 2016, what they have identified, they've identified a list of around 19 items, some of which Siddharth mentioned, and those items effective from July 1st, they are banned. And one thing I have to say, while I like the idea of this rule, the problem is that it doesn't give people enough time to really ramp up and change with the times, to change the material that are being used, right? We'll talk about that a little bit at the end. While Modi did talk about it in 2016, I believe it was 2017, but the real change happened about 6 months ago, and it's only in 6 months that they're implementing it. On top of the various items that were banned, there's also something that's happening with plastic bags. So earlier they were going to ban all plastic bags that are less than 75 microns, but thankfully the government said okay, we'll do that later on. But what's basically going to happen is that in a couple of years, everything less than 75 microns is going to be banned, and the thickness of plastic carry bags has to be from 75 to 120. All right, so that's going to go into effect from December 31st, 2022 as well. And there's already a blanket ban on the plastic that is used for gutka packets, tobacco packets, and all of that stuff. The one funny thing is, the one thing that was not banned, and a lot of these plastics manufacturers are saying that this is bias. Hypocrisy. Yeah, bias, hypocrisy by the government. All these FMCG packaging, like for chips and all that stuff, that is not getting banned. But when I look at the roads, when I look at the oceans, that is mainly what I see when I think about single-use plastic, right? So anyway, so that's what's happening.
That's the advantage of lobbying, man.
But Coke and all of these guys, they tried to lobby to get straws unbanned, but that didn't work.
Yeah,
but I guess
that's true.
The FMCG packaging is just such a big industry, you can't just ban it immediately.
Yeah.
But anyways, so what are
straws is actually interesting. Yeah, so straws is actually interesting, right? Because these plastic straws, and you might think that it only impacts the live counters of juices and stuff like that were you giving straws. But the huge industry that gets impacted is this mini Tetra Pak, small, cardboard boxes of juices and buttermilks and whatnot. And a lot of the FMCG industry actually depends on it. Amul has a huge say in this. Pepsi, Parle, all of these have products that gross thousands of crores just in that segment. And when you take the straw out of it, it practically is unusable, right? Like how else do you use that product? And in a country where pricing matters, that 10 rupee packet is actually very, very important to their top line, bottom line, whatever you call it. And getting rid of the straws there was a big pain point for these people.
But it's not just the big companies, right? It's also the 88,000 MSMEs across India that are employing 1 million people, where their main job is producing single-use plastic. I mean, I think this is a terrible industry. It should be phased out, but you can't just ban an entire industry that is employing so many people just at the drop of a hat, right? That's my main problem.
Yeah, we saw the same thing with toys, to be honest, right? The BIS certification, where they said overnight, in 6 months, you need that BIS certification. And the MSME industry is still sort of, pushing back on it. And it's very hard to get the certification for a lot of these smaller units. But we've seen the plus side of it. We've discussed it in the last quick thing. We've seen the plus side of, impact in exports and stuff like that. So it's always in that transition period. I think there are a lot of people that get affected and impacted. But hopefully in the larger scheme of things, in 10 years, 20 years, this decision will actually make a lot more sense.
I mean, yeah, there'll be a lot of pain right now, but 10 years down the line, but I'm not sure how many people can see that horizon.